Millionaire woman slipped on ice. A poor teen helped her up and changed his destiny. The bitter Chicago wind cut through the downtown streets like a knife as Eleanor Blackwood stepped out of her heated luxury sedan onto the treacherous sidewalk. At 55, Eleanor was the founder and CEO of Blackwood Capital Management, one of the most successful investment firms in the Midwest. Her portfolio included real estate developments, technology startups, and manufacturing companies that employed thousands of people across multiple states. Eleanor's world was one of calculated risks and strategic investments, where every decision was analyzed through multiple data points and market projections. She had built her fortune through careful planning, ruthless efficiency, and an unwavering focus on results that left little room for sentiment or spontaneous emotion. Her daily schedule was managed by a team of assistants who ensured that she moved seamlessly from one high-stakes meeting to another without wasting a single minute. This particular February morning, Eleanor was rushing to a crucial board meeting at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange building. The previous night's freezing rain had created a thin layer of ice on the sidewalks throughout the financial district, but Eleanor was too focused on reviewing her presentation notes to pay attention to the hazardous conditions underfoot. Her expensive Italian leather shoes, perfect for boardroom meetings, offered no traction on the slick pavement. Eleanor had always prided herself on her ability to maintain control in any situation. She had navigated hostile corporate takeovers, survived the 2008 financial crisis, and built her company from a small investment advisory into a billion-dollar enterprise through sheer determination and strategic thinking. The idea that something as simple as weather could disrupt her carefully planned day seemed almost impossible. As Eleanor hurried across the intersection of LaSalle and Madison, her phone buzzed with an urgent message from her assistant about changes to the morning's agenda. Without slowing her pace, she glanced down at the screen to read the update, momentarily taking her attention away from the icy sidewalk ahead. The fall happened so quickly that Eleanor barely had time to react. Her foot hit a particularly slick patch of ice that had formed where melted snow had refrozen overnight. Her legs went out from under her, and she crashed hard onto the concrete sidewalk, her leather briefcase skidding across the ice and spilling its contents into the gutter. The impact was jarring and painful. Eleanor felt a sharp pain in her right wrist and a throbbing in her hip where she had hit the ground. More than the physical discomfort, however, was the shock of finding herself sprawled helplessly on a public sidewalk. Her carefully maintained image of control and competence shattered in an instant. Other pedestrians hurried past, most too absorbed in their own morning routines to notice or assist a fallen stranger. This was Chicago during rush hour, when everyone was focused on getting to work on time and avoiding their own encounters with the treacherous weather conditions. Eleanor's expensive coat and professional appearance didn't automatically translate into offers of help from busy commuters. It was 17-year-old David Martinez who broke the pattern of urban indifference. David had been walking to his early morning shift at a downtown coffee shop, a job he had taken to help support his family after his father was injured in a construction accident 6 months earlier. Unlike the business professionals rushing to their offices, David was walking slowly and carefully, having learned from experience that his worn sneakers provided little grip on icy surfaces. David's life had been shaped by necessity and responsibility, far beyond his years. As the eldest of 4 children, he had watched his mother struggle to keep their family afloat after his father's injury left them without their primary source of income. David had dropped his plans for college and taken on multiple part-time jobs to help pay for rent, groceries, and his younger siblings' school supplies. Despite the hardships his family faced, David had been raised with values that emphasized helping others whenever possible. His parents, both immigrants from Mexico, had taught him that treating people with kindness and respect was more important than personal advancement or material success. These lessons had been reinforced through years of watching his community come together to support families during difficult times. When David saw Eleanor fall, his first instinct was to help rather than to judge or ignore. He didn't notice her expensive clothing or calculate whether assisting her might benefit him somehow. He simply saw another human being who needed help, and his upbringing compelled him to respond with immediate action. David carefully approached Eleanor, who was still sitting on the icy sidewalk looking dazed and embarrassed. He offered his hand to help her up, speaking in calm, reassuring tones as he assessed whether she was seriously injured. His manner was respectful and gentle, without any hint of condescension or expectation of reward. Eleanor's first instinct was wariness. Her wealth had taught her to be suspicious of strangers who offered unsolicited assistance. However, something about David's demeanor convinced her that his concern was genuine. As he helped her to her feet and carefully retrieved her scattered papers from the gutter, she found herself grateful for his unhurried kindness in a city where most people seemed too busy to notice others' struggles. David noticed that Eleanor was favoring her right wrist and suggested that she might want to have it examined by a doctor. When she insisted that she was fine and needed to get to her meeting, he gently pointed out that her briefcase was damaged and many of her documents were wet from the slush. His practical observations, delivered without judgment, helped Eleanor realize that her morning schedule would need significant adjustments. As David helped Eleanor organize her salvageable papers and called for a taxi to take her to a medical center, she found herself studying this young man who had shown her such unexpected kindness. His clothes were clean, but clearly inexpensive, and his careful handling of money when paying for her taxi suggested that every dollar mattered to him. Yet he was spending his time and resources to help a complete stranger without any apparent expectation of return. Eleanor asked David for his name and contact information, ostensibly so she could thank him properly once she had dealt with her injuries and rescheduled her meetings. However, she was also curious about this teenager who seemed to possess a natural grace and maturity that many of her wealthy associates lacked. David provided his information willingly, but seemed genuinely surprised that Eleanor wanted to stay in touch. In his experience, interactions between different social classes were typically brief and transactional. The idea that a wealthy businesswoman would want to maintain contact with a teenage coffee shop worker was outside his realm of experience. As Eleanor's taxi arrived and David helped her into the vehicle, she experienced an unfamiliar feeling of genuine gratitude towards someone who couldn't possibly benefit from her wealth or connections. The entire encounter had lasted less than 15 minutes, but it had shown her a kind of authentic human kindness that had been absent from her life for longer than she cared to admit. During the ride to the medical center, Eleanor found herself thinking about David's calm competence and natural empathy. While she was having her sprained wrist treated and dealing with the inconvenience of her disrupted schedule, she couldn't stop wondering about the circumstances that had led such a thoughtful young person to be working multiple jobs instead of preparing for college. The contrast between David's immediate willingness to help and the indifference of other passersby troubled Eleanor more than she expected. She realized that her own lifestyle had insulated her from both giving and receiving the kind of spontaneous human kindness that David had shown her. Her interactions were typically calculated and purposeful, lacking the genuine care that had motivated a teenage stranger to help her up from an icy sidewalk. That evening, as Eleanor reviewed the events of her day from her penthouse apartment, she made a decision that would surprise everyone who knew her, including herself. She was going to find out more about David Martinez and the life experiences that had shaped such an impressive young person. Eleanor's investigation into David's background revealed a story of resilience and sacrifice that challenged her assumptions about success and failure. Through a combination of public records and discreet inquiries, she learned about his father's construction accident, his family's financial struggles, and his decision to postpone his education to support his younger siblings. What impressed Eleanor most was discovering that David maintained a 3.8 GPA at his public high school, despite working 25 hours per week across 2 part-time jobs. His teachers described him as a natural leader who tutored struggling classmates and had been accepted to several colleges before financial reality forced him to decline their offers. The more Eleanor learned about David's circumstances, the more she recognized qualities that she valued in her most successful business associates: problem-solving ability, reliability, emotional intelligence, and the capacity to remain calm under pressure. However, unlike her wealthy colleagues who had developed these traits through elite education and privileged opportunities, David had earned them through necessity and hardship. Eleanor's decision to contact David again came after several days of reflection about their encounter and its implications. She realized that her fall on the ice had been more than a minor accident. It had been a moment of revelation that forced her to confront how isolated she had become from the everyday experiences of people outside her social circle. When Eleanor called David to thank him again and invite him to coffee, he was working his shift at the downtown shop where he prepared beverages for many of the same business professionals who had walked past her when she fell. The irony was not lost on Eleanor that David served people every day who wouldn't think to help him. If their situations were reversed, their conversation over coffee became an extended discussion about dreams, obstacles, and opportunities that opened Eleanor's eyes to realities she had never considered. David spoke thoughtfully about his desire to study business and economics, his interest in understanding how financial systems affected working families, and his long-term goal of starting programs that would help other immigrant families achieve economic stability. Eleanor was struck by the sophistication of David's thinking and his genuine concern for his community's welfare. Here was a teenager who understood complex economic concepts from lived experience rather than theoretical study, and who possessed insights about social mobility that most business school graduates never developed. The opportunity that Eleanor eventually offered David was unprecedented in her business career. Rather than simply providing financial assistance for college, she proposed a comprehensive mentorship program that would allow him to work part-time at Blackwood Capital Management while completing his education. The arrangement would provide him with practical business experience, financial support for his family, and access to networks that could help him achieve his long-term goals. More importantly, Eleanor structured the opportunity as a genuine partnership rather than charity. She made it clear that she expected David to contribute meaningfully to her company's operations, particularly in developing investment strategies that considered social impact alongside financial returns. His perspective as someone who understood poverty and economic instability would provide insights that her other analysts couldn't offer. David's initial reaction was skepticism. Opportunities like this didn't happen to people from his background, and he worried about hidden expectations or obligations that might compromise his values or family commitments. However, Eleanor's straightforward explanation of her motivations and her willingness to structure the arrangement around his needs eventually convinced him that the offer was genuine. The transition from coffee shop worker to investment firm analyst was challenging but transformative for David. Eleanor assigned him to work with her research team, analyzing the social and economic impacts of various investment options. His unique perspective quickly proved valuable in identifying opportunities that traditional analysts had overlooked. David's insights helped Blackwood Capital Management develop a new investment philosophy that considered long-term community benefits alongside short-term financial gains. This approach initially faced skepticism from some clients, but eventually proved more profitable and sustainable than purely profit-driven strategies. For Eleanor, mentoring David became the most rewarding aspect of her professional life. Watching him develop confidence and expertise while maintaining his fundamental values reminded her of why she had originally been drawn to business: the potential to create positive change rather than simply accumulate wealth. The partnership also transformed Eleanor's approach to corporate leadership. David's questions about how business decisions affected working families forced her to consider perspectives she had previously ignored. Under his influence, Blackwood Capital Management began implementing policies that prioritized employee welfare and community development. David's success in the business world didn't diminish his commitment to his family and community. As his income increased, he was able to ensure that his younger siblings could focus on their education without the financial pressures he had faced. He also established a scholarship fund for other students from immigrant families who showed academic promise but lacked resources for college. The media attention that eventually surrounded their partnership focused on the dramatic contrast between their backgrounds and the success of their collaboration. However, the real story was more nuanced. It was about how genuine human connection could bridge social divides and create opportunities for mutual growth and learning. Eleanor's transformation from isolated executive to engaged community leader accelerated as she learned more about the challenges facing families like David's. She began redirecting her philanthropic efforts toward programs that addressed root causes of economic inequality rather than just treating symptoms. David's influence extended beyond Eleanor's personal growth to fundamental changes in how Blackwood Capital Management conducted business. The firm began prioritizing investments in companies that created good jobs, supported community development, and demonstrated environmental responsibility. 3 years after their initial encounter on the icy sidewalk, David graduated summa cum laude from Northwestern University with degrees in economics and business administration. He had completed his education while working at Blackwood Capital Management and maintaining his commitment to his family and community. Eleanor offered David a full-time position as Vice President of Social Impact Investing, a role that would allow him to develop and oversee the firm's community-focused investment portfolio. The position represented not only David's personal success, but also the institutionalization of values that had emerged from their unlikely partnership. The story concluded with the establishment of the Martinez Foundation, a non-profit organization funded by both Eleanor and David that provided comprehensive support for immigrant families pursuing economic advancement. The foundation offered everything from English language classes and job training to small business loans and college scholarships. As Eleanor and David addressed the foundation's first graduating class of scholarship recipients, they reflected on how a moment of simple human kindness had grown into an organization that was changing lives throughout Chicago. The icy sidewalk where they had met had become a symbol of how unexpected encounters could create opportunities for transformation and growth. David's journey, from struggling teenager to successful businessman and community leader, demonstrated that talent and determination could overcome significant obstacles when combined with genuine opportunities and supportive mentorship. His success had opened doors for dozens of other young people from similar backgrounds. Eleanor's evolution from isolated executive to engaged community leader showed that wealth could be most meaningful when used to amplify the voices and efforts of people who possessed wisdom earned through hardship. Her fall on the ice had ultimately lifted her to a level of purpose and satisfaction she had never previously experienced. Their partnership proved that authentic relationships across social and economic divides could benefit everyone involved, creating value that extended far beyond financial returns to encompass community development, social justice, and human dignity.
Thank you for watching this story unfold with us here on M&A The Story Unfolds. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new tale. We'd love to know where you're watching from. Leave a comment below and tell us what part of the world you're joining us from. Your support means everything. See you in the next story.